Hello friends, my name is Vas Solo. I'm a recovered drug addict and alcoholic, a practicing yogi, and a certified meditation instructor. Last week I talked about the first 3 stages of addiction, and I compared them to the stages of a relationship, because they're quite similar. I also ended the video by asking the question of, why does anyone stay in a broken relationship? Today I'll answer this question and talk about the last 2 stages. But first, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. I upload videos about addiction, recovery, and personal development, so hit that bell and subscribe. The truth is that drugs and alcohol are not the problem. After all, many people use them responsibly and never become addicted. Then there are those who temporarily lose control but can eventually rein it in. And then there are people like me who, once having formed the habit, find that they can't stop. Therefore, the problem is with the addict. Drugs gave me an escape from what I felt was a dull and empty existence. From the time I was a teenager and all throughout my 20s, I felt as though life lacked a purpose. I felt that there had to be more to it than simply sustaining the status quo. The traditional path of go to school, get a job, get married, have kids, and die horrified me. It dumbfounded me that so many people seemed to find it so appealing. It's as though they were under the influence of mass hypnosis and I was the only one who saw through the lie. Thinking this way made me feel like an outsider looking in. I rejected normality, but deep down inside, I wanted the peace of mind and apparent happiness which others whom I judged so harshly seemed to have. Unable to find it, I became increasingly resentful. Neither my romantic relationships, friendships, or even the love of my family were enough to help me enjoy life. Neither were my hobbies and interests. With each passing year, I became more cynical, bitter, and depressed. What I failed to realize was that how I saw things was a direct reflection of my negative state of mind. This is how most addicts feel. We're dissatisfied with life. And our reasons for feeling this way vary. Some are victims of childhood trauma, while others like me are born maladjusted to life. Despite our best intentions, we constantly find ourselves at odds with the world and the people in it. As hard as we try to find it, our harmonious life eludes us. Unable to solve our seemingly innumerable problems, we turn to drugs to cope. Such is the internal condition, which predisposes us to forming an unhealthy relationship with mind-altering substances. Now, the same condition can lead some people to attract the wrong partner. For example, those who feel inadequate, lonely, or have a fear of abandonment are far more likely to end up in a bad relationship than those with a healthy sense of self-worth. Ultimately, what the drugs do for the addict, a relationship does for someone with low self-esteem. Both provide an external solution to an internal problem, which provides temporary relief from painful emotions purchased at an ever-increasing cost. It works at first, but eventually, the remedy becomes the poison. And what usually has to happen before someone seeks help is they have to hit their bottom. For addicts like me, this usually means going through 2 more stages of the disease. At this stage, the relationship becomes consistently turbulent. Our partner, an equal source of pleasure and pain, joy and sorrow, laughter and tears. We know we should walk away, but we can't, because we become dependent on them. So we bend and twist the truth to justify our commitment to someone who's causing us pain. We repeatedly ignore the voice of our conscience, and as the result, remain stuck in a worsening situation. Occasionally, the suffering becomes unbearable, and we find the courage to leave, hoping it will make things better. But it doesn't. It makes things worse. Because while being in the relationship was painful, it was also our only source of comfort. Now that we're alone, our fears and insecurities rise to the forefront of our mind. Not knowing how to deal with them, we default to the only solution we know. We go back to our partner. That's why, unless we change our internal condition by addressing the root of the problem, this pattern will continue to repeat itself. In this regard, our suffering is a blessing in disguise, because the worse it gets, the more compelled we'll be to seek the solution we need. As for myself, repeatedly failing to find meaning in life did not prevent me from trying. In my teens and early 20s, I had aspirations of becoming a rapper. When that didn't work out, I pursued a career in fitness. At the age of 25, I finished a 2-year college program and became a personal trainer. I managed to do this in spite of my growing drinking problem and occasional drug use. While my relationship with pot had ended, I was now dangerously flirting with ecstasy and cocaine. The possibility that I might be an alcoholic who was on his way to becoming a drug addict still hadn't crossed my mind. My ability to find some success in life told me I was doing fine. While there were several incidents which made me doubt this, such as a run-in with the law and a health scare, their impact on my resolve to change was short-lived. I could admit that alcohol was my vice, but not that I couldn't control it. The fact that I managed to abstain from it once for as long as 3 months fed this delusion. When someone close to me voiced their concern, I became defensive. I always had a dozen excuses to justify my drinking. Plus, I felt that things were going well enough for me that I didn't have to. I had a girlfriend, a job I liked, and plenty of time to work on myself. Somewhere deep down inside, I knew I was wrong, but my pride wouldn't let me admit it. It's likely that I would have floundered this way for the rest of my life and never reached my bottom. But the relationship I was about to form next would take me there fast. I first tried cocaine when I was 20 years old, and the experience left a powerful impression on me. On one hand, I loved the intense euphoric high, but the come down left me feeling morally and emotionally destroyed. That night, I experienced the lowest low of my life. And for the first time ever, I thought about wanting to kill myself. And for that reason alone, I swore that I'd never do it again. However, I did do it again several months later. And this time, the crash wasn't as bad. I discovered that drinking alcohol eased the come down. Throughout the next 5 years, I did coke about once every 3 months. And each time, I regretted it. For one, it was costly. Not just the drug itself, but the typical night out when I was on it. While high, I was careless with the little money I had. I'd buy many expensive drinks, pay for cabs I couldn't afford, and by the time that the party had ended, which was usually in the wee hours of the morning, I'd be completely broke. It's at this point that the drug-induced euphoria, which had kept me going all night, would abruptly end, and I'd plunge into a hellish state of self-loathing and misery. My lack of money and the painful come-downs were strong incentives not to indulge. But once I graduated from college and could afford it, all bets were off. And thus began my 7-year-long abusive relationship with cocaine. For half of that time, I suffered from the delusion that it was only a phase. While part of me wanted to stop, the other part of me loved getting high. The weeks turned into months, the months turned into years, and by the time I realized how much trouble I was in, it was too late. My life became a complete mess. I became someone I didn't recognize. My health had deteriorated, I ruined most of my relationships, and I was barely scraping by. And no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't stop. And that's when it happened, my final rock bottom. It was like you see in the movies where a woman who's tired of being abused by her spouse, one day just picks up her stuff and leaves. There's no fight, no yelling, no tears. She just calmly walks out on him without looking back or saying goodbye. And that's what happened to me. Something finally clicked in my head and I knew that I was done. But I also knew that I needed help because I could not trust myself. I knew that I had to seize this opportunity. So that's why I went to a 12-step meeting, got a sponsor, and worked the steps. And that ended my 12-year-long toxic relationship with drugs and alcohol. That's it for today, guys. Thank you for watching this video. If you like the content, make sure to click on the bell and subscribe. I'll be uploading many more videos about addiction and recovery, so hit that subscribe button. And let me know what you thought of this video, or share your story in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for watching, take care, and I'll see you next time.